Welcome to the Probability Brief, signal check on the world's most telling prediction markets. The Probability Brief's objective is to deliver clear, data-driven intelligence on how major events are being priced in real time. Each episode examines fast-moving prediction markets, high-impact whale trades, regulatory momentum, and shifts in crowd psychology. The show explains what moved, why it changed, and what the probabilities reveal about the path ahead. Making complex market signals accessible, actionable, and easy for listeners to follow. The Frictionless Frontier. Today is Monday, February 23, 2026. If you are tuning in from the United States, we hope you had a restful and meaningful President's Day holiday last week, and we are back to the grind as the probability ecosystems begin to recalibrate for a new fiscal quarter. Today, we are dissecting a fascinating divergence between traditional polling and decentralized prediction markets regarding the Global Maritime Security Initiative. While public sentiment remains cautiously optimistic, the market microstructure suggests a significant information asymmetry that is beginning to bake in a higher probability of regulatory gridlock. We aren't just looking at the headlines, we are looking at how the world reacts to them. We're tracking the liquidity flows that indicate where the real smart money is hedging against unexpected geopolitical shifts in the Straits of Malacca. Signal mechanics, the silent whale cascade. In our signal mechanics segment today, we look at why a single whale trade can create a massive market cascade even without a corresponding news event. At 3:15 a.m. Universal Time Coordinated, a series of coordinated limit orders appeared on decentralized platforms, totaling over $14 million. This wasn't a reaction to a leak, it was a structural play on liquidity depth. When a whale enters a thin market, they aren't just buying a position, they are shifting the entire order book. This creates a price discovery vacuum where smaller traders, fearing they've missed a regulatory leak, begin to herd in the same direction. In this instance, the whale was likely an institutional arbiter exploiting a 4% mispricing between Kalshi and PolyMarket regarding the upcoming SEC clearance and settlement rule. This is a prime example of how market microstructure, the actual plumbing of the trade, often dictates the narrative before the narrative even exists. Market micro equals stories, the 2 a.m. pivot. Sometimes the most telling signals are the smallest ones. Over the weekend, we witnessed a 3% shift in the niche market for Midwest power grid infrastructure upgrades. This might seem insignificant, but the timing, a liquidity spike at 2 a.m. on a Sunday, suggests a localized correction following a closed-door briefing at a major energy conglomerate. This microstory is a teachable moment in incentive design. Traders in this niche market are often industry insiders who are incentivized to move early on non-public but legal operational data. When the market corrected itself by 6 a.m., it signaled that the earlier panic dip was likely an overreaction to a misidentified technical fault rather than a structural failure. Structural context, pricing the Silicon Silk Road. Moving to our structural context, we are currently seeing markets price an escalation in tech trade tensions, what analysts are calling the Silicon Silk Road. As a new tech breakthrough in subnanometer lithography hits the wires, prediction markets are rapidly adjusting the adoption curves for competitive hardware. Probability ecosystems are currently pricing a 68% chance that new export controls will be implemented by Q3. This isn't just a geopolitical guess, it's a reflection of how markets price disaster relief and economic insulation. When traders see a tech breakthrough, they don't just look at the innovation value. They look at the regulatory friction. If the friction is higher than the adoption rate, the probability of market dominance for that tech drops, regardless of how revolutionary the science is. Crowd psychology deep dive, narrative anchoring. Why do certain narratives persist even when the data says otherwise? In our crowd psychology deep dive, we explore narrative anchoring. We've observed a confirmation cascade regarding the federal labor participation odds. Despite 3 consecutive weeks of cooling data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the prediction market odds for a tightening remain stubbornly high. This is overconfidence mixed with attention scarcity. Traders are anchored to the narrative of the previous 6 months and are filtering out new signals that contradict their established bias. This creates an incentive misalignment where the crowd is effectively paying a biased tax to those few traders who are looking at the raw signals without the emotional baggage. Regulatory trajectory analysis, the committee grind. Today's regulatory trajectory analysis focuses on the House Financial Services Committee's latest stance on algorithmic stablecoin collateralization. Rather than just reporting the bill's status, we need to understand the legislative process and stakeholder incentives. Historically, similar bills have faced a bottleneck at the subcommittee level due to lobbyist friction, a historical analog we've seen in 2022 and 2024. Agency signals from the Treasury Department suggest they are favoring narrowly tailored oversight rather than a broad ban. This shifts the probability of passage from a 40% long shot to a 55% toss-up, as the incentives for major banks have shifted from opposition to co-optation. Market memory, the ghost of the 2024 correction. Prediction markets have long memories. Right now, we are seeing a volatility cluster that mirrors the flash crash behavior of late 2024. Traders are reacting to a regulatory leak with the exact same 12% drawdown pattern we saw 2 years ago, even though the current economic fundamentals are much stronger. This shows how long narratives persist. The market is remembering the pain of 2024 and correcting prematurely based on phantom signals. For the savvy trader, this market memory provides a blueprint. The correction is likely to be shallower and shorter than the one it is mimicking, as the information asymmetry is much lower this time around. Cross-market correlation, energy and e-commerce. In a sophisticated probability ecosystem, nothing happens in a vacuum. We are tracking a clear correlation. When the market for North Atlantic shipping insurance spikes, the probability of e-commerce delivery surcharges follows with a 48-hour lag. This isn't just about fuel costs. It's about liquidity flows. When liquidity dries up in the maritime logistics market due to perceived risk, it almost immediately appears in the last-mile delivery futures as traders move to hedge their exposure. If you want to know what's happening in retail, you have to watch the tankers. The incentive map, who wins the gridlock? In our final deep dive, the incentive map, we look at the current maritime security stalemate. Who benefits? Private security contractors and alternative overland logistics providers. Who loses? Just-in-time manufacturers and consumer-facing retail giants. Who is signaling? Small-cap shipping firms are signaling distress through quiet regulatory filings that the mainstream media hasn't picked up on yet. Who is silent? The major state-owned carriers are notably quiet, which usually suggests they are coordinating a back-channel resolution. This incentive map tells us that while the public probability of conflict is rising, the private incentive for a quiet settlement is actually at an all-time high. In summary, today we tracked the silent whale that moved the SEC probabilities, explored why the 2 a.m. power grid spike was a lesson in incentive design, and analyzed why narrative anchoring is keeping labor market odds artificially high. We also looked at how market memory is causing a 2024-style ghost correction and how energy markets are the leading indicator for your next shipping bill. Thank you for listening to the Probability Brief. If you found this valuable, please like, subscribe, follow, and share with someone who watches the odds like you do. The sources for today's episode are PolyMarket, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Twitter Trends, Senate Hearing Transcripts, Kalshi Market Data, SEC Regulatory Filings. Please note, this podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, or betting advice. All market probabilities are subject to change. Episodes may be generated using fully original, fictional-but-realistic market movements. Some scenarios, market movements, or examples discussed in this episode may be illustrative or simulated for explanatory purposes.